The biggest fear for anti-federalists was, can a republic really govern a nation as big as what existed then? And in Federalist number 14, James Madison stands up and says, yeah, and that's exactly what makes it different from every failed republic before it. He argued that the Constitution doesn't stretch democracy too far. It stretches it enough, well, to survive. I'm Matt Hasquin. I'm a high school history teacher, and we're going through each one of the Federalist Papers in order all the way up to number 85. And here we are at James Madison with number 14. So the year, again, is 1787. America stretches from Maine, which was controlled by Massachusetts, all the way down to Georgia and across the Appalachians into the frontier. Critics of the new Constitution say that no government can rule a land that is so vast. And they point to ancient history. You look at Rome and Athens and Carthage. And they warn that big republics collapse because citizens lose connections to their rulers. And Madison says, yeah, I'm going to take that challenge head on. And so his thesis is simple, but it's powerful. The Constitution creates a republic, not a democracy. And that distinction makes scale possible. Madison writes, the error has arisen in confronting a republic with a democracy. Well, a pure democracy requires, or a direct democracy, requires everyone to gather and vote on every issue. And that works great for a small town, like in New Hampshire and the New England area. But it doesn't work great for a continent. And so a republic with elected representatives, well, that can scale indefinitely. So Madison says representation turns geography from a curse into a blessing. Instead of dragging citizens hundreds of miles to vote, we send a few chosen representatives to carry our voice to the Capitol. It's efficient, it's fair, and it keeps the government close enough to feel accountable. In a world where roads are slow and rivers are rough and people can only move as fast as a horse can carry them, representation is technology. It's political innovation. Madison builds on the logic going back to his Federalist Paper number 10. A large republic protects liberty because diversity prevents domination, and the same logic applies here. Size means variety, variety means balance, and balance means stability. And so he's arguing that geography protects freedom. So when Madison writes number 14, he gets a little poetic in his essay here. It's almost like it's a bit prophetic. He says that America's vastness, its scope, isn't a problem to overcome, but instead it's a challenge to meet. It's an opportunity for unity through ingenuity. If you go in and read it, he says, happily for America, her situation is remote from the jealousies of Europe. And he's reminding the readers of the essay that our distance, our diversity, and our independence are blessings, if only we stay united enough to use them. Madison even gets practical about infrastructure. He notes that new roads and canals and communication will connect the states faster than people realize. And he will predict that distance will shrink with progress, that the republic will grow into its geography. And it's remarkably a remarkable modern idea that Madison has here, anticipating a future of connection long before telegraphs or trains or the internet. Now, Madison then turns the size of the argument upside down. He says, instead of fearing the bigness, right, he instead, let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate our size. He says a large republic protects liberty better than a small one because power is harder to concentrate. In small republics, it's possible for factions to rise easily. In large ones, they can be kind of diluted. It's not that people get better, it's just that systems get stronger. Now, a good portion of this essay, it's not all logic. There is a good deal of pride mixed in here. Madison calls on the people to rise above the narrow local prejudices of small confederacies. So he's reminding them that the revolution didn't create 13 nations, it created one people. And to shrink back into fragments would betray that legacy. It's not just political reasoning, it's a national identity. And then Madison begins to close the essay with one of the more stirring lines in all 85 of the essays. Let us enlarge the orbit of our government. He's saying, dream bigger. Don't be afraid to innovate politically as we have technologically and geographically. The founders didn't build for the past. Let's remember that. They instead built for the future. So if we tighten things up with Madison's logic and our chain of reasoning that we've been doing for each of these videos, the first thing we need to look at is the fact that a republic isn't a direct democracy. That's like basic 101 in your high school government class. The second thing is that representation makes large-scale government possible. So scale then, the third point here, scale protects liberty by diluting out factions. And then fourthly, geography and innovation connect, not divide, the people. And then finally, the fifth point is that the union's not too big. It's perfectly sized for freedom. And so that's, hey, I've summarized it for your homework assignment once again. So why does it matter? Why does Federalist 14 matter today? Well, Madison's insight still speaks to every generation of Americans. Every era faces new technologies and new distances and new voices, but there's an important principle that holds here, and that is representation expands as we do. From stagecoaches all the way to, fiber optics. The republic endures because it adapts. It was designed to grow, not to crumble under its own weight. So, the takeaways you need to take from Madison in number 14. The Constitution creates a republic that's built for scale, for the size. 2, geography and diversity are strengths, not weaknesses. And 3, America's greatest invention isn't its size, it's its system. So just to kind of wrap it up here, Federalist number 14 is Madison's victory lap. It closes the Constitution's first great argument, that unity isn't just safe or wise or efficient, it's actually visionary. He tells Americans to reject the fear of size, embrace their destiny, and build a nation big enough and strong enough to last. I'm Matt Hasquin, and this is another one of those things I think we should all know by being alive. If this helped you see the Constitution as both, philosophy and foresight, please take some time, share it with other folks, give me a follow. I really appreciate it. Let's get ready for Federalist number 15, because here comes Alexander Hamilton again, and he's going to shift from unity to enforcement. And he asks, what good is a government that cannot make its laws obeyed? So let's enforce those laws. Thanks for taking the time to watch.